Indicate that this is a commercial vehicle. ID light. My directional signals, left and right, also uses my four-way emergency flashing. Headlights, high beam for the country, low beam for the city. I want to make sure that my stop lights are working properly in the back. Inspection of the lights, all my lenses should be clean, not cracked, broken, or missing. I'm checking for burnt out bulbs. Amber in the front, red in the rear. Amber is the color of caution. My windshield is clean, not cracked or broken, free of scratches or illegal stickers. The weather seal around the windshield is not ripped or torn to prevent air and water from coming in. The windshield wipers are not cracked, broken, or missing any parts. The blades not ripped or torn, free of any debris to prevent scratches on the windshield. Then you go down. My bumper is tight and secured to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My license plate is fully visible, it's clean, and is up to date. I want to make sure that my bus is not leaning from side to side. If it is, that means that my springs or my shocks are broken, and it must be fixed. Now, I'm going to check my fluids. Come up closer, man. Now we get in here. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with my battery.
The battery.
My battery is tight and secure. It should be clean terminals at all times. No bare wires to prevent a short. Free of any corrosion. Then I go to my fluids. I have 6 types of fluids. We have water, brake fluid, power steering fluid, windshield washer fluid, oil fluid, transmission fluid. I want to make sure that all my fluids are at its proper level. All my reservoirs are not cracked, broken, or leaking. All the caps are tight and secure, none missing. We're checking for leaks underneath the ground of the bus. Then we go to our belts. You just want to name them.
Serpentine belts.
My bus is equipped with a serpentine belt. It drives 3 components of the belts.
3.
Alternator, water pumps, air
conditioner,
power steering. Alternator, water pump, power steering. Inspection of the belts. They should not be worn or torn, too tight or too loose. Too tight, you can break the bearings or any other parts connected to the belt. Too loose, they can slip and not work properly. The proper adjustment, that's when you guys walk up to the belts. The proper adjustment, it's 3/4 inch of play in the center of the belt in between the 2 pulleys. And then we go to the components of the belt. My alternator is tight and secure to the engine with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. No bare wires to prevent a short. Then we go to the water pump. You look for the biggest hose coming out of the radiator, it'll lead you to your water pump. My water pump is tight and secure, it's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. We're checking for leaks underneath the ground of the bus. My power steering is tight and secure to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Hose, free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges. Clamps tight and secure. We're checking for leaks underneath the ground of the bus. It's tight and secure to the engine, not the chassis. Okay? Then we go to our hoses. We have oil, water, fuel. Inspection of the hoses.
Water.
You can use your power steering hose as your oil. Here's your water. Your fuel line is underneath. You just point underneath. You see the hoses? 3 hoses. Water, oil, and fuel. Inspection of the hoses. They should be free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges. Clamps are tight and secure. We're checking for leaks underneath the ground of the bus. Then we go on to our steering box. You look at the steering wheel, you look down here. If you look up in here, you'll see the steering rod, and you just point down to the steering box. The steering box is tightly secured to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Holes free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges. Clamps tight and secure. We're checking for leaks underneath the ground of the truck, of the bus. Then we go to our steering linkage. It's also right directly down here. Our steering linkage should not be cracked, broken, or illegally welded. All joints are maintained well lubricated. Castle bolts are in a proper place. They're not loose, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Cotter pin going through the castle bolts locked tight and secure. Then we go over to our spring mount. My spring mount is tight and secure to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. My spring is not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. It's tight and secure with a full set of nuts and bolts. My shock absorber is tight and secure to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The shock absorber should not be leaking any grease or oil. If it is, that means it's bad and it needs to be replaced. Then we go. Yeah, I just said the spring. Turn your page. I just said the spring. So now we go. I just said the shock absorber. You gotta catch up with me, baby. Catch up with me.
Going to the steers.
So now we go to the brakes first. Okay. My bus is equipped with disc brakes. They should not be cracked, broken, or illegally welded. If you look through the ventilation hole, we checking for 2 powders. White powder indicate that the brakes overheated and a fire extinguisher been used. Black powder indicate that it's metal-to-metal rubbing. There should be no less than a 1/4 inch life left on my brake pads. All right? My steers are free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, free of any nails or screws to prevent a flat. Recaps are not permitted. Tire tread should be no less than 432 seconds of life left on them. Tire pressure should be between 85 and 100 psi or whatever the manufacturer recommends. When checking, we'll use an air gauge. That's when you guys just point to the valve stem. Okay, so when they talk about those steers are free of cuts, cracks, or bulges, they talking about the outer wall and the inner walls, okay? And when they talk about free of nails or screws, they talking about up here. Okay.
And the use the thinner like this?
Yes, this is fine. Okay, now we go to the rim, lug nuts, and hub seal.
100, yeah?
Yes, sir. The rim is not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Lug nuts is the full set, none missing, free of any rust. Rust indicate that the lug nuts are loose and they need to be tightened. The hub seal is tight and secure. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The hub seal should not be leaking any grease or oil. If it is, that means it's bad and it needs to be replaced. The valve stem is not loose. It's not touching the rim. I'm listening for air leaks. Then we go to the left side door and mirror. I want to make sure that my door opens and closes properly. The weather seal around the door is not ripped or torn to prevent air and water from coming in. The door latches are maintained well lubricated. The door hinges are not cracked, broken, or illegally welded, free of any rust. The mirror is tight and secured to the door. It's clean, not cracked or broken, free of scratches or illegal stickers, and is well adjusted. Then we go to the bus chassis and cross members. The bus chassis is not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The cross members is tight and secured to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts, not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The drive shaft is not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. It's well centered. U-joints are maintained well lubricated. U-joints in the front goes connected to the transmission. The transmission is tight and secured to the engine with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The transmission should not be leaking any transmission fluid. U-joints in the rear goes connected to the differential. The differential is tight and secure, not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. It has a full set of nuts and bolts. The differential should not be leaking any gear oil. If it is, that means it's bad and it needs to be replaced. Then we go to our windows and emergency exit windows. Our windows are clean, not cracked, broken, or missing, free of scratches or illegal stickers. The weather seal around the window is not ripped or torn to prevent air and water from coming in. I want to make sure that my emergency exits are undamaged, they operate smoothly, and they lock tight and secure from the inside. Then we go to our suspension. You just point right here. You see the spring, the leaf springs and all that right there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the suspension.
It's some like wires.
No, it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. The spring mount hanger is tight and secure to the chassis with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Leaf springs is the full set, non-missing, not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Leaf strap, tight and secure around the leaf springs, not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. U-bolts are not loose, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. It has its proper set of nuts and bolts. The mounting pad is in its proper place. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Then we go to our drives. The same inspection I did on my steers, I'm gonna do on my drives, including these 4 things.
The same inspection like did it.
Yeah, the same inspection we did up on the steers, we're gonna do on the drives, including these 4 things. So, my steers are free of any cuts, my drives are free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, free of any nails or screws to prevent a flat. Recaps are permitted. Tire tread should be no less than 232 seconds of life left on them. Tire pressure should be between 85 and 100 psi, or whatever the manufacturer recommends. When checking, we'll use the air gauge. That's when you point to the valve stem, right there. Okay. Then my drives have dual tires. It has space. The space is free of any wood, bottle, trash, or etc. My rims are not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. Lug nuts is a full set, none missing, free of any rust. Rust indicate that the lug nuts are loose and they need to be tightened. The hub seal is tight and secure with a full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked, broken, or illegally welded. The hub seal should not be leaking any grease or oil. If it is, that means it's bad and it needs to be replaced. The valve stem is not loose. It's not touching the rim. I'm listening for air leaks. Okay? Recap. The space between. The space. It's dual tires. Yeah, so you feel the space?
Okay, so
the space is free of any wood, bottle, trash, or etc.
It's no. If what happens is going inside.
You can